Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Maeve Fogarty, and I'm going to be your host for this afternoon's event. I am the Healthcare Development Manager with Bunzl Cleaning and Safety Supplies, and I look after all the TENA range of products. Today on the call with me, I'm delighted to announce that I have three members of the S&T team. We have Sarah Murray, who is the clinical consultant with many years, over 20 years experience working with continence care. So just a quick shout out there to Sarah. We also have her colleague Ashley Clydesdale. Ashley is a key account manager with S&T, with extensive experience, many years experience with dealing with patients with continence care. So they're going to co-present the main presentation of today's event. So just to introduce them first, and then I'd like to introduce Ian Daniels. So just a quick shout out to Ian. Ian is the account sales executive who works very closely here with us at Bunzl Cleaning and Safety Supplies to make sure that we offer a superb service and support around the TENA brand here in Ireland. So thank you for all joining me on the call today. At this point, I would really like to extend a warm welcome to all of you, the attendees today. I appreciate you take your time out of a hugely busy schedule, I've no doubt, in healthcare settings to join in today. So we really appreciate that. I want to say hello and welcome back to anyone who's been on previous webinars, and also a big welcome to anyone who's here for the first time. This is our 5th webinar in the season so far. So how the event is going to run, I'm firstly going to hand over to Ian Daniels. Then we're going to come back to Sarah and Ashley, who will take you through the main presentation. Then it will be back to Ian for a questions and answers session, when Ian will explain how you can participate, and we'd be delighted if you would do in that towards the end of the presentation. And then it'll be back to myself. Okay, so just to say, obviously, as you're aware, the topic today is care through COVID. So now I'd like to hand over to Ian. Thank you, Ian.
Thank you so much, Maeve. So basically, hi everyone, thanks for joining us at S&T. We manufacture and supply TENA to Bunzl in Ireland, and I work very closely with Maeve and her team. So thanks again for everyone joining us, and also big thanks to everyone who's joined us on all the previous sessions as well. So as COVID and the pandemic continues to develop, people around the world are facing new challenges every day. So with that, therefore thought we'd share a video today that was actually created at S&T earlier in the year that reflects some of the ways ourselves and the business have had to adapt and some of the challenges that the world has sadly had to face. So at S&T, with our brand TENA, we're really pleased to work in partnership with Bunzl in Ireland, and very much hope you enjoy today's session with my colleagues and the video.
Ian, thank you very much. That's a hugely powerful piece, and I'm sure it's evokes many emotions with people, and certainly it resonates with everybody working in the healthcare setting, I've no doubt. At this point, I would be delighted to hand over to Sarah first, I think, and then on to Ashley. So over to you, Sarah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maeve, and thank you again for inviting myself to join you on this webinar. I'm going to share my screen so that I can just go through a few slides that we've put together that looking at care, the care that people have been able to provide through COVID. Sorry, it's not moving on. One of the things I think that has the slide moved on?
All good, Sarah. Yeah.
Oh, phew, thank you. I've had a few technical issues this morning, so I apologise if it's a little bit stilted. One of the things that has come out very clearly, I think, and one of the positives that certainly a lot of people have been able to find in the COVID situation is how we've all pulled together, we've all worked together as communities, as countries, and although the video was perhaps focusing a little bit on the UK, we know that it's been the same in all countries all over the world. People have connected in a different way. And a lot of the clinicians that we've spoken to, and I'm sure it's the same for yourselves, have found that the way that they've been forced into working, the new ways of working, have been successful, and they're going to continue with them. So it's not completely negative, although it has obviously been a very difficult time for a lot of people. We'd love to hear your experiences and your thoughts, and we have the chat function available if you'd like to jot down how you found working through the COVID situation, as well as any questions. It would be great, and we'll hope that there will be time at the end of the call to go through some of those. There's just a few one of the impacts and one of the sort of focuses that we've tried to bring through the COVID situation is looking at the patients and looking at the carers as well. This research that Carers UK undertook initially in April, but they reviewed it in October. And if anybody wants access to the full report and the link, then if you just get in touch with Maeve, and we'll be able to forward that on to you. It's freely available online. And it's really startling, I think, the impact that this epidemic or pandemic has had on the carers, with people needing to isolate, with people wanting to shield. We know that care visits have been reduced, that families have been reluctant to let people in and out of their homes, and so the burden of that care has fallen onto those individuals. The Coalition of Carers organisation in Northern Ireland did a similar survey earlier in the year, and their findings, their figures were very similar, almost identical to the ones you can see on the screen. So we know no matter where you are, if you're caring for somebody, the last few months, 6 months, and the next few months really, or the foreseeable future, has been a really challenging time. And one of the things that certainly always kind of strikes a chord with me is it's not just the burden of care, the burden of worry and everything that comes with it, but for a lot of people financially, the COVID-19 situation has pushed them into a position where they may have to go into debt over it. So we, as a company and as clinicians, trying to do everything we can to support these individuals while they're going through these difficult times. Because as we know, we don't know when this will end. We're hoping it won't end. It won't go on for much longer, and the vaccine news is great, but we just don't know when this will end. One of the things that we found, certainly in the UK, a lot of other charities and organisations have run research, and one of the things that we found as well was that a lot of people had experienced a deterioration in symptoms, and so their need for products, when we're thinking particularly around the TENA products, had changed in some ways, whether that be they were less mobile or they were more incontinent, they were more disorientated. And so as a company, we started to see that that the NHS and clinicians and ourselves were needing to look at the provision of products and how we work with the NHS or with the clinical commissioning groups to provide the best solution. And I'd just like to share with you a little bit about a case study or experience that happened in Cornwall. Cornwall, like I'm sure yourselves over there, had a process in place when people were needing an allocation of products. Patients would undergo the continence assessment, and they would be supported by district nurse teams and carer visits, and more often than not that would mean 2 carers were visiting 4 times a day, and so families and patients were able to cope with a 2-piece system. When the pandemic became apparent, or when the extent of the pandemic became apparent, Cornwall had to look at different ways of providing care for patients. They had been asked to prepare to receive end-of-life patients into the community, as opposed to them going into hospices or hospitals or care homes, to support the acute trusts and secondary care with the influx of the extra patients they were expecting to receive. And so Essity were asked to see if we could help put together packs. They called them sort of the end-of-life care packs that would be delivered out to these patients in the community, that were going into the care of their families and their loved ones, and sent the packs to assist them with their care in what might be their final few days or weeks. Obviously, straight away we were more than happy to help, and as they're predominantly used 2-piece pads, or the TENA comfort range, a shaped pad, that was what was initially thought to be put into the packs. When we stopped and reflected, and the clinicians working in the area stopped and reflected, Sharon Eustace, who's the lead clinician, was really keen that the patients and the families were put at the forefront, that their dignity and their well-being was considered above everything else. And so some of the issues you can see there about the fact that the carers themselves may be older and frail, not professional, not used to this kind of care, and there might only be one person available to help. We soon realised that a product that they don't particularly utilise, the TENA Flex, may be much more suited to maximise the comfort and dignity for the individuals and for the carers. Those issues that we realised the families would be facing were really well addressed with the TENA Flex product, the belted style product, giving them an easier fit, and also the ability for just one person to put that pad in place and to stay in place for potentially a longer period of time with less movement and disruption. And so the point with the lasting impression that the Cornwall experience sort of gave us is that it was almost refreshing in a way that the CCG, so the clinical commissioning group that were going to be funding this initiative, they weren't focusing on the product cost. They started to look at the total cost of continence, the human cost of continence, and actually how these products were going to be used on a day-to-day basis. And it got us thinking at Essity that, is that really any different to the patients that are already out there in the community being cared for by families, potentially shielding, potentially frail and unwell themselves, and do we need to think differently? And I suppose what certainly the clinicians, or myself and the other clinicians at Essity, were just really, those conversations have started, and we want to keep those conversations going. We want to be able to be in a situation where patients and families are put at the forefront. We know costs are very often have to be considered, but just wanting to keep these ideas and these conversations going so that we can start perhaps thinking differently. Like I said, we'd love to hear your experiences and thoughts. If you can use the chat function, that would be great. I'm now going to hand over to Ashley, who's going to talk a little bit more about some of the support we offer.
Thanks, Sarah. So, as Sarah said, we have to look at ways of adapting to the situation. And with Essity, we have done just that, and we really have focused on our virtual support tools that we have available to help you in the field, because unfortunately we are now no longer available to do this face-to-face training that we would have normally done in the past. So what we want to do is just go through a few options that are available to you and to also your patients as well, so you can share this, because there is an awful lot of support out there for them. Get my right screen up, sorry. Okay, so the first website I want to draw your attention to is actually our brand site. So this is just simply TENA.co.uk. This is really directed for patient support. It's got a lot of self-help guides on this, for example, pelvic floor exercises, not just for ladies, but also for men. There's a lot of guidance for the actual carers themselves. And as you can see, there's a healthcare professional site on there too. But I will draw your attention to another site that's specifically designed for our professionals that we work with. There is a children's site on this web page as well. There's product information and there are fitting guides and things. So there's a wealth of information there for the patients to tap into. As I mentioned previously, we also have a TENA professional site. I'm not sure whether many people are aware of this site. It is an open access, so you don't actually need to have a password or a username to come onto this site. Again, it's a really valuable resource for clinicians. There's a lot of product information on the site, and there's also a clever device called the Product Selector. So you can put in key symptoms or conditions for your patients, and it will actually kind of highlight the products that might be more suitable for that particular patient that you're caring for. There are fitting videos on there as well, and there's a lot of education and knowledge and just that reference material that you can refer to. We also have another site I hope that you're more familiar with, and this is called TENA.net. So this site is not open, it is literally just for our customers. However, registration is incredibly simple. Simply go onto the website there, it's on the slide, but we will share all the links with you later, and you can self-register. And you will automatically given access to the site, and you will have be given a password and username so you can get access to it. And as you can see, there's a lot of resource available on there. So again, you've got your fitting videos, you've got your product information. It has more information in regards to the literature, and you can actually either request printed versions or you can download the literature on the site. And there's some nice patient leaflet guides like a healthy bladder and bowel. There's some fitting guides and things that are designed specifically for patients. You can order samples on this, so if you're unsure about any particular assessment for your complex patients, then these samples are available for free, delivered straight to yourself. And then we also have, and draw your attention to, the Academy. So this is it's essentially hosted on you get access through it to the Academy through TENA.net. It's a separate section in TENA.net, and on here we have a platform of e-learning modules. These are incredibly interactive, and each one is split up into components. So you're looking around about an hour to complete each one, and of course that will go towards any of your professional development. We call it accreditation, but I think it's or we call it revalidation, and you call it accreditation, I think, in Northern Ireland. But you can see that it spans from understanding urinary incontinence to skincare, right through to bowel management and also dementia and incontinence. Now, on the video that you saw at the start of our session, we have already highlighted TENA Community. Now, this is our Facebook page, and it's designed for or directed for patients, just to give them some additional information about continence, and they can post questions on there that myself and my clinical colleagues can help answer. As you see, we launched this in June this year, and we are really pleased the fact that we already have, I think it's actually even more now, but when we did this, it was 1,800 followers. So we put regular posts on this site about continence promotion, and as you can see here, there's a little snippet about keeping your health and your skin healthy. So it's just another source of support there for the patients. And in the video, it also highlighted our Facebook Live events, and I'm really excited in the fact that we actually have a Facebook Live event tonight. And we have the pleasure of having Sharon Eustace, who is the nurse consultant from Cornwall Partnerships NHS Foundation Trust, presenting on this. Sarah has already presented a bit of an overview on the case study that from Cornwall, but Sharon will actually be discussing this an awful lot more in more detail, and she'll also be looking more at continence assessments and how they're affected by COVID, and the various ways that the continence services have adapted to try and ensure that the patients they're delivering care for are still receiving an excellent service. So please do join us. Again, we'll share the link, or maybe search for it on Facebook. It'd be a pleasure to have you. So I'm going to hand over to Maeve, I think, now.
Super. Thank you very much to you both, guys, Ashley and Sarah, for excellent presentations. A huge amount of information there that I think would be incredibly useful for everybody working in a healthcare setting today in the COVID world. Sarah, that piece, as you say, from Cornwall, if anybody wants to receive the link or get any more information, please just get in contact with myself and we'll organise that. As you say, it's about really having different conversations now, and working in a completely different way for patients' needs, both as carers and professionals, and also as companies obviously providing these products. Ashley, thank you for sharing very much for all the information online, a wealth of information from every angle, which again, I know I've done all the TENA little the word has gone from me, sorry. The education, I've sat through all the modules and they're excellent. I thoroughly recommend them for anybody who's interested in that area or working in that area. So what I'd like to do now is hand back over to Ian, please, for the questions and answer session. Thanks, Ian.
No worries, thank you very much, and thanks to Ashley and Sarah for great presentations there, really interesting, and some fantastic activities and things that people can get involved with, and some great education pieces, so thank you so much. I've had a couple of questions sent through, an interesting first one, which is, what other products would we recommend to help families caring for a loved one, especially through tough times that people are going through at the moment? So I thought maybe could hand over to Sarah, if that would be okay on that one.
Yep, that's fine. I think when we're thinking about families caring for or professionals caring for anyone either suffering from COVID or who is shielding from COVID, I think the thing is looking to try and minimise the amount of time you're having to spend in too close contact. Obviously, you've got full PPE that can be worn, but it's certainly some of the products that we would suggest. So for example, the shampoo cap, perhaps it's probably a lot quicker and you're able to stand behind the person while you're using the shampoo cap, sort of massaging in and removing it. It's a much quicker procedure to do. And likewise, things like the wet wash gloves, you can do a full body wash with the wet wash gloves. Probably I would say a lot quicker and easier than you would do if you're having to use soap and water, wet the skin, soak the skin, rinse the skin, dry the skin. And I'm certainly not suggesting that we start getting to the point where we just whiz in, give somebody a quick lick round and then pop out again. But if you can reduce the amount of time you have to spend in close contact, that's got to help with any kind of cross infection. And also the time that you save, you can be using for nicer ways of interacting with a patient or family member, just being able to act a little bit more socially distanced. With intimate care, if you're using a 3-in-1 product, so like our TENA wet wipes or even the wash cream, again, because that's going to cleanse, restore and protect, it reduces the amount of products that are needed and the time spent. So I think it's just about thinking sort of creatively about how much time you spend too close to that person and can we make it easier.
Great, thank you so much, Sarah. That's great. And yeah, a point to add, which I mentioned in most sessions, that if there's any products that people are trying or customers are trying that are interested in trying that you don't have currently, feel free to ask for samples. And between Maeve and myself, and between BCSS and SAT, will ensure to get samples to you if needed. I had another question, which I'm going to ask for Maeve to kindly answer, which is there any problems, or do we foresee any problems in relation to products, stock, deliveries, or anything like that through the second wave or the upcoming months and into 2021? So I'm going to ask Maeve if that's okay.
Thanks, Ian. Yes, that's a great question, and a very practical question at the moment. No, absolutely not. I can reassure customers that at Bunzl we have protocols in place that our healthcare customers get the highest level of service, saying that obviously medical device products have to be delivered in a very timely fashion, and we understand that if this doesn't happen, it would ultimately would impact patient care, and we certainly don't want that to happen. So it's we've made many allowances and we've lots of stock in place, and forecasts have been put in place for any second wave or, God forbid, a third wave happening. But no, we're fully ready to go. But thanks for asking in.
No problem. No worries at all. So I mean, that's it on the questions at the moment. But what I would say, sometimes people have questions later on. You maybe think of something after the session that you may want to ask us. So again, feel free to get in contact retrospectively and ask us. That's absolutely fine. But just want to take this opportunity to thank everyone, my SCT colleagues and everyone with Maeve and her team for this year's events, and we look forward to many more next year. So I'm going to pass you back to Maeve, and thanks everyone for your time.
Excellent. Thank you, Ian. And again, I just want to reiterate what you said there, Ian. Thanks to yourself and obviously to Sarah and to Ashley for joining in today. I would also like to thank my own colleague in the background who's producing the event, Anya Murphy, who's our marketing manager at Bunzl Cleaning and Safety Supplies. And Anya is making sure that it's running all very smoothly. So thanks, Anya, for that. And finally, but certainly not least, I would like to say thank you to the audience. Thank you for all attending today. As I said earlier in the webinar, I appreciate that you all have really busy schedules, and thank you very much for taking the time out. I hope you enjoyed the session. It is, as Ian said, that's the final session for this year, but we're already in the planning process for putting a full schedule of events together starting in January 2021. So we look forward to having you on board then. But in the meantime, please don't hesitate to get in contact with myself or Ian or any of the SCT team. And we'd be delighted to be of assistance to you in helping you, supporting you with the TENA brand. Thank you very much for your time. Take care.